So when clients come in, first thing that we ask them to do is onboard.
The more due diligence a client can do with their land, the better.
Out of the 100 active jobs and the 100 behind it and the 400 that you built prior to that, how many of them look the same? None.
None of them.
None.
If you got a really good deal on a piece of land, you should ask why. There's a reason it's a really good deal.
And when you explain that like, hey, when they get onboarded and they're looking for land and they go get it and they're in this due diligence period and they can utilize that site visit, we could have potentially saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
What's going
man?
on?
Not much, man. I love getting the two of you. You talk about both ends of the spectrum. Any chance that I can put production and sales on the same couch, let alone the same room, it's going to make for an entertaining episode. So, for those that maybe don't know, both of you been on the show before, and work hand in hand with a lot of our customers. But take a second, just kind of introduce yourself and what you do at Barndo.
So my name's Lance Martin. I'm the director of sales. We intake everybody's information. We call them. We kind of vet them and get them, into the funnel and into the whole process of helping them see their dream become reality. We're the starting point, that everybody sees first. And so my team, that's what we do. We're the first people you talk to and see if we're a good fit for you. You're a good fit for us. Try to help your Barndo dream become a reality. So that's what I do here is lead the team and hopefully get you across the around the first lap of the race, and be the starting point for you building a dream Barndo.
I'm Nick Menz. I'm the director of construction. So basically I'm in charge of permitting them, purchasing them, and building them. And then after the keys are handed over, the warranty process. So the whole process of people coming into finance, we start the process of pulling the permit. Purchasing starts the process of procuring, labor and materials for the job. So all the back office things that set the table. And then, of course, once we have a permit, the entire construction process. And then once we hand over keys, the warranty process.
Yep.
So that's all my wheelhouse.
I was waiting to hear you say the grease trap. That's the running joke. He's like, I'm here to collect everything, no matter what.
I can't believe you remembered my analogy.
Yeah. Well, there's never a shortage of analogies when we're all sitting at the table. So
We just throw it in there.
yeah, that's right. He's the fry cook. You're the grease trap.
You got that right.
No, it's crazy, man, because, we talk about this a lot, but, we're servicing hundreds of clients. Right now we have right about 100 active job sites, about 100 people pre-construction going through various stages, getting ready. And to service that level of people is insane. And the sales team is seeing 1,600 new people a month that are calling and inquiring. And so to split up the responsibilities and the duties and what that looks like, and everybody's got a role to play to find out like, hey, who is this going to be a good fit for and who's it not a good fit for? And sometimes the wrong things get through and, and then it's a battle because, and when I say the wrong thing, what does that mean? It means, maybe somebody came in and their financial situation changes from the moment that they meet us and onboard to the moment that they're ready to go and close. And so you're basically working through that process 2 or 3 times to get things adjusted to where, it lines up with your budget. That's things we can't control. Sometimes the homeowner can't control it, or they just didn't know. But then also, sometimes you get people that come in and they just have a different expectation of, what they're getting involved in, what the process looks like. A lot of people, they've romanticized their Barndo for years, but they've never even seen a job site. And they've never been a part of that, what it has to look like, like we always use the analogy of baking a cake, it's a cake at the end, but all the steps prior to that, the whole time you'd be going, where's the cake? So it's kind of fun to have both ends of the spectrum here because you're having conversations with thousands of people and trying to find the select few that this is a good fit for, and we do a pretty robust job of qualifying right client and making sure that we're the right builder. Um, and we have probably a 90% success rate with that. Like, 90% of people that get in are raving fans. 10% of people, there was some kind of a misalignment somewhere along the way. But overall, it's been good. And then you have the insane job of building all these. And out of the 100 active jobs and the 100 behind it and the 400 that you've built prior to that, how many of them look the same?
Yeah.
None.
None of them.
None. Every time I meet with Nick, I ask him 2 questions. I say, "Hey, how many jobs do you have going right now where you're building the same plan twice?" And the answer is always 0. And then I say, "How many active builds, had a change order or something come up?" And he's like, "All of them." And that's just part of the nature of building customs. And as much as we've streamlined the process, as much as we've tried to make it, where people can come in and it's quick and efficient and easy, we say yes to a lot of things I think a lot of builders maybe wouldn't say yes to. And in our minds, from a sales standpoint, they think we say no to a lot of things. But the reality is we're building hundreds of custom homes across 3 states, soon to be 4. And it's a lot to manage. And so one of the things that I've talked about 1,000,000,000 times, but I want to re-drill down on it, is some of that process and why it's so important to do it the way that we do it. So when clients come in, the first thing that we ask them to do is
Are you pre-approved?
onboard.
Yeah,
That's
I want to know if they're pre-approved.
Well, you got to be both, right?
Yeah.
So like we want to make sure you're pre-approved, but we get you to onboard, right?
Right.
What does onboarding mean? It means that you're a serious client that seriously wants to build, and then we get to do all the stuff to make sure that it gets there. And onboarding, and this sometimes I think gets missed, is designed to catch things that may not work before you go into active construction. So I think one of the biggest shocks is people onboard and they come through the process and they get to a point where it just didn't work. We couldn't make it work on paper. We couldn't make it work in the dream reality, right? Like, and that means it's definitely not going to transfer to the real raw dirt scenario of working. And so they have to move on to something different, right? They have to look for another solution. Sometimes they come back, right? Sometimes we're able to adjust and find a product that does work, whether that's SFH or changing something, making it smaller, maybe making it bigger, maybe making some upgrades, maybe taking some upgrades away. We have to make it work on paper first. And it doesn't for everyone. And I like, as much as people get so upset when they onboard and then it doesn't work out how they anticipated, it's kind of the purpose of onboard. It's like the filter, right? This is the filter to make sure that what's flowing down the pipe and gets into the engine is actually usable. And if there's something in there that doesn't make it through the filter, that's good, right? Because you're not going to have a less than stellar experience in the build, and we're not going to be challenged to build something that doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, if you can't make it work on paper, it's never going to work in the field.
Right.
So that's what onboard, like, that is the purpose of onboarding. We're trying to save you dollars, time, and a whole lot of negative experience by trying to figure out, are there things in this that need to be eliminated? Is there, potential downfalls or things, related to your land that pulled the budget in a different direction? We're trying to find the problem. And so I think a lot of times that's misunderstood. It's like, hey, I paid the onboarding and we'll be building any day now, when they don't realize like the onboarding process is determining the feasibility of what you're trying to accomplish. If you tell us you want to spend $450,000 and we can't make it work, I would rather if you only had this small investment to figure that out and allow us time to make necessary changes, or for you to make a different financial decision for your family than to be 6 months into a build and encounter something where you have no option but to cough up more money or, completely wipe something away from the home. And that's really hard. Like, I think some builders say that, we can always take it away. And it's hard to take it away.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, like, we're talking about, like, a required, like, we can't just, like, be like, well, we're just not going to build that one back wall, just have this open, it'll be an open concept. But, I really want that to be something that people learn to accept, that, like, we are intentionally trying to make sure that we've covered all of our bases before you get into a contract, before you get a loan, before we break ground. And even as rigorous as we are with that, we still encounter some obstacles, right? So before the show, we were sitting here chatting, and you wanted to lean into, some of the importance of dirt work, and even beyond before dirt work, some of the stuff that helps have a very fluid onboarding experience. But one of the biggest challenges, we've had this probably 5 or 6 times over the last 4 years, maybe more, but I can vividly recall 4 or 5 times where we showed up, everything's looking good, we send out a grader, and they dig that first hole, and then they find debris, right? What happens then?
So it's a multitude of things. I think first off, it's important to say that, like, we don't know anything about this land. So, and I think that people don't understand how much back office work it takes to set the table for construction, because every county has different requirements. Every piece of land has a different history. It could have been a landfill 30 years ago, and the person that bought it doesn't even know. So, we have a lot of disclaimers that talk about that. So we run into these things a lot, and not just with the dirt, but just with, in permitting in general. Any due diligence that's not done on the front end becomes our problem. So, and that causes time, and time is everything in this industry. So, I think that we do the best we can to assess what we're looking at when we do the site visit and when we do the grading quote. But there are some times we run into things that we weren't anticipating. And I think that a lot of people that sell land, when they log the property, like, they'll bury stuff in there. And so the more due diligence a client can do with their land, the better. And a lot of it, when you do a perk test and they dig holes, sometimes you'll discover it then. But the more due diligence someone can do of knowing the history of that land and what's under that dirt, the better. Because once we scrape and we find it, we might have had a quote where we were bringing in 20 loads of dirt. We figured that in order to build the pad properly, have proper fall, we need 20 loads of dirt. Well, if we start scraping and we find a bunch of organic material, I think recently we found, like, cinder blocks and old gas tanks, and someone had literally buried a prior structure under the dirt. Well, first of all, we have to pull all of that out. We have to haul it off, and all that stuff that comes out has to be replaced with good dirt. So we always try to be amicable. We always try to be fair. We stop construction and we have a conversation. Hey, this is what we ran into, and we try to find a way that's fair and makes it work for both parties. And it's a very, very hard conversation to have with somebody.
Well, and it's like 1%.
1%.
But if you are that 1%, it's everything to you. So we try to treat it with the same care and consideration, and, like, I've seen those conversations. I've heard those conversations being had. I've heard all the conversations in our back office before those conversations are had of things that we're trying to do to make it manageable for them, because we understand you're borrowing a certain amount of money. You've already been through that. Now we get to this point, and it's like I say, 1% are going to have something unusual that happens, and so you run into that. But the fact that it's only 1% just tells me how effective our onboarding process is. Even when someone complains about the onboarding process, it's like, I hate that you had that experience during onboarding, because I know this was something you wanted, but I'm also glad that we found it before we were in a contract and there's money on the table, and every day, every moment costs you money to solve that problem then, right? Like, and so, like, I think it's a double-edged sword. So yeah, there's some negative blowback when people onboard and things don't work out, but there's also the plus side of we less than 1% of our situations on site is because we're so rigorous on the front end with getting that. So as much as we harp about the 1% because it's a big deal. We want everybody to have a great experience, right? You want those people because they didn't know it was there either, right? You're massively empathetic to the situation. But the reality is it's 99% of the people we're building for don't have that issue.
No.
And so that just tells me like hey guys, like this is a evidence of how effective that onboarding process is, how effective it is to have somebody from the company go out there and look at some of the build feasibility, how effective it is to go out there and get those grading quotes. And if grading busts your budget, thank God we found out before you signed a contract, right?
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen. We want to build twice as many homes. But if we have to disqualify it on paper and it saves you the hassle of being, in a funded loan 30 days in, and then you realize, oh my God, there's another $20,000, $30,000 worth of stuff here that we had no idea was coming. We can prevent that with onboarding because we used to have this issue. Go back 2 years ago, and the way we were doing grading, we used to give homeowners the option to handle most of it themselves. And they would get, their cousin Terry to come out there and do some grading, or they'd find a guy on Facebook to come out and, they're like, saving me so much money. And then we would get there and go through all the testing and like compaction and everything and be like, hey, this ain't gonna work. And then they're on the hook for, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000. They're building a mile back in the woods, and there's no way for a dump truck or an 18-wheeler to get back there to deliver materials. And there's just so many things that we've learned over the years to where some of it in the beginning was a lack of foresight on us because we weren't really thinking about the fact that literally every piece of dirt is going to be different, to today where we know it. And I think we draw such a hard line that we don't. The reason for it isn't because we're wanting to be difficult to build with. What we're wanting to do is be the easiest build possible and deal with the difficult things on the front end.
Well, I think too, one of the things I wish everybody knew coming in is if you got a really good deal on a piece of land, you should ask why.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's a really good deal. There's a because they're not making any more of it, So we'll have people that have we had one not long ago that they got a really good deal on like 13, 15 acres. 90% of it was in a floodplain. They didn't know it. Yep. The person selling it to them didn't tell them, and they've never bought land before, and they didn't know to ask.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things like that, even if you call us, we can tell you, hey, look out for these kind of things as you're looking for land. That might save you some heartache, but
it's a concept.
Most people are new builders. They've never, they're new. They've never built a house before. Yeah. They don't know.
Well, it's a battle.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I can tell you right now, I said, hey man, we need to quit onboarding people that don't have land because it's clogging up the system. We're talking with thousands of clients, and we're trying to give everybody, the same experience. And then you got 30 or 40 people over here scattered across the huge area we build in that don't even have land that are somehow plugged into this system. And I'm like, we got to do away with that. And you were like, no, we're not, because of that. And when you explain that like, hey, when they get onboarded and they're looking for land and they go get it and they're in this due diligence period and they can utilize that site visit, we could have potentially saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? By going out there and saying, hey, this is going to be required here. Like, I don't know if you knew this. And so they get to bring a little bit of expertise to the table during their due diligence phases and potentially save themselves from having to solve that land, right? That really good deal on land, which is, it's not a good deal when you realize what you have to do to make it buildable, or get access to it, or get it clear cut, or, and you mentioned permits, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say that a new client comes in, they're so excited, they moved here from out of the state, and they found them a beautiful piece of coastal property down in Charleston County, South Carolina, right? They're in the little triangle, it's beautiful, and talk a little bit about that because people think it's crazy, but it is, but there's a reason to it. It's nothing we can do about it, but in Charleston County, and there's several counties like this, by the way. It's not just Charleston County, but this one specifically. Talk about the potential permitting storm that could be presented on that dirt and that we want to prepare you for on the front end when you're coming in and tell you about this, because there's some things there that could potentially delay a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and every county is different, and we've ran into different challenges. But especially in the coastal counties, especially Charleston County, there's so much due diligence that goes into pulling a permit. Um, we have to have a tree survey. A lot of them have to have elevation surveys. Some of them we have to get a zoning permit from another smaller, municipality or something like that. And there's just so much that goes into it. I mean, there's animal conservation where, we've ran into some where there's like a sea turtle preservation, and there's Asian longhorn beetle quarantine pockets all over Ravenel and, different parts of the counties. And, so once we receive it, the process of navigating through all that, we've had a couple in Ravenel that had the beetle. I mean, we have to go through Clemson University. So we're not just filling out an application and sending it in with a set of plans and saying, hey, we're going to build this house. I mean, there's civil engineering involved. What is the base floor elevation? There's, 50-year floodplains, 100-year, there's X zones. There's all these different things. When someone's choosing a piece of property and where they're going to build, I mean, sometimes you're looking at six figures in charges just to meet base floor elevation, whether it's building on piers or crawl spaces. And, we have a product that's, we try to make affordable. Like we build on a 4-inch slab. That is our preferred foundation. But, all these things fall on our permitting department, and it's a massive amount of work. The last one that we've dealt with in Charleston County, there were 162 documents that they required of us, multiple different surveys. We've had to source some of those out to, people that are professionals that know more about it than we do. And and it's just a different world. It's just a different animal. So when it comes to marshlands and floodplains and all these different things down there in that county, and then on top of that, outside of the site, just the site stuff, you have seismic, you have wind load. I mean, they want to know every nail that's going into that house because of wind and all these different things. So there is a massive amount of work, and I do think it's important to highlight that. I think that people are overstimulated during the process of like onboarding and designing their plans, and it's really exciting. And I think that they hit a brick wall sometimes once they go into finance. And I wish that the client could come tour our office and see how many back office people I have, not just in permitting and purchasing, working on that bill before we ever scrape dirt.
Well, I think it brings up a great point to highlight, right? Especially in the Barndo space. There's a lot of people that think that this is just some like loophole construction method.
No,
Not what we're doing.
it's the other way around.
Yeah, it's
harder.
It's harder
because they don't know it.
If you're in a situation and your builder is saying, hey, you go pull the permits, you do this, that should set off a red flag to you.
Mm-hmm.
Either A, they don't have the adequate licensing, or B, they don't want to deal with this, and they don't want the warranty issues that come with it. They don't want to carry the load. They don't want to be there and sell something that's long lasting. Like when we say we're turnkey, that means we do the heavy lifting. Now, that we're absolutely going to ask you for documentation. There's things that you have access to that we don't have. Like we can't log into your personal finances. We can't log into your personal records and pull certain things. So we do work together to obtain it. But once it's obtained, we do the heavy lifting on this. And something that we do that I don't know that a lot of builders do, I can't speak to every one of them, but we do a super set of structurals for every single build that goes vertical in our company. What does that mean? Right? Because there's a lot of debate on this too. People are like, well, when I pay for the design, them stamp plans, like we used to sell a lot of plans online and we pulled back from that a little bit because people are so uneducated about it. And there's so many con artists out here that are selling, oh yeah, these are stamp plans. Stamp for what? They put a stamp on it when they mail them to you maybe, but like, how are you stamping plans if you don't even know the build method?
That's right.
And so we have a very specific build method. It's very different than the next guy. Right? And the next guy. And there's so many different ways to achieve it. And so what we're doing is we're saying, Bob and Mary, when you invest in this and you come in and you go through this process, we're checking all the boxes for a multitude of purposes. One is your home's going to appraise, and it's going to appraise comparable to other customs in the area. It's not going to appraise against metal carport blowaway buildings. They're not going to do some custom takeoff appraisal against other barns in the area. This is a custom home built in a way that they recognize as a custom structure. What does that do? In addition to appraising so that you can get traditional financing, which we work very hard to accomplish, you're also going to be protecting your investment because this is a long-term investment for you that's going to be carried. So when you go to sell it down the road or something comes up and you have to, pull money out against it, it's going to appraise as a custom home with a ton of upgrades. That's one part of it. Number two, it's going to be engineered specifically to the location in which you're building it.
Yes.
That municipality, regardless of where it is, whatever county and whatever state and in whatever city ordinance that you are located in, we are engineering that structure to meet and exceed their needs.
Oh, whatever pocket of that county.
That's right.
Yeah. Not just the county.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's layers deep. And
it's
so
layers deep.
there's a lot of back and forth on that because what's happening there? We're telling you, Bob and Mary, your
it's always
price.
Bob and Mary.
That's right.
It's always Bob and Mary.
That's my go-to. We're telling you, here's your price. You have a signed commitment from us to honor that price. And now we're trying to fit everything in there so that you're protected. We're protecting your investment so that you have a fixed cost. We're going to battle with everybody out there. And let's say engineering kicks back and there's a discrepancy between what the engineer says and what the local county's wanting to see. And we're trying to figure out how do we value assess this. And if we have to, we'll challenge it. Right? And we'll ask their engineer to write reports and we'll ask ours to write reports and we'll go down there in person and challenge that, right? To protect the investment, to protect you, to make sure that what we're offering is being built in accordance to what is required there so you don't get stuck. You don't get stranded. If somebody's telling you that they can build your house for less money and a faster time in Charleston, South Carolina, you better run. Because it's not possible. It's not possible.
No.
We're building a large volume. I would say we're one of the biggest barndominium builders in the country. We're turning out several hundred a year, and they're all turnkey. We don't do shells. We don't do half builds. We don't do all these little one tiddly off things that like we're not building horse barns and some barn. We literally build turnkey residential structures for a living. That's what we do. And we design them from dream to door key and everything in between. And so we're covering a lot of ground. We're doing a lot of things. And like you said, in that back office piece, we talked a lot about onboarding. Onboarding sets the table for the feast, right? It doesn't do anybody any good to show up, right? If the food's already prepared, but there's nothing there, right? There's no utensils, there's no plates, we didn't even get a guest count, right? That's crazy. Lance uses an analogy all the time, that you take somebody's order, you run in the kitchen and say, hey, table 3 wants chicken, and then you leave. I think that's what happens out here a lot of the time. Yeah. Like when people are just looking on Facebook to build their home, they're saying, hey, I want chicken. And everyone in the comments is like, we do chicken all the time. They didn't specify chicken tenders, chicken sandwich, or chicken Alfredo. It's just chicken, right? We're going to dig a little deeper and say, hey, what else? What else is required? Right?
Yeah.
Well, there's sides that come with the chicken. Like, do you have any allergies? Are you gluten sensitive? Let's figure some things out. We're going to give you a custom experience, right? We're going to pair it up with the right drink. We're going to make sure you have that. Not only that, there's going to be napkins on the table, right? We're going to take it a step further. So that process requires a little bit more attention to detail, which again gets me back to onboarding, right? Like the importance of onboarding. So if you've ever wondered, what if I read somewhere that somebody said they onboarded with you guys and it took 9 months and they never built. Good. Like, does that mean that maybe we didn't do something right? There's always a possibility. We own that. Like, go back and watch episode. Like, there's nothing. We never run from that. But feedback is our favorite F word. It always will be. And we always adjust to it. And it's evident in our build. It's evident in our company that we take feedback seriously because we're always doing things to elevate the standard, right? But in essence, good. It means it worked, right? It didn't work out how they wanted, but it worked, and it saved them a hassle of being in a contract, in a loan where there was no path forward, because now you got debt and everything and you still don't have a home. At least now this didn't work out, but you can pivot and go do something different.
Yeah.
So the onboarding concept is really good, but feedback is always present. The Barndo Show is sponsored by the Barndo Co. Are you ready to reclaim your American dream? If so, head over to thebarndoco.com, click the contact form, and reach out to one of our representatives so we can get your dream started today. I've been reading through this feedback, grooming through this feedback, and thinking, all right, how could we improve the onboarding process even more, right? And so I kind of came up with this crazy idea that it's really not crazy. I think it's going to be phenomenal, but it was met with like, what? And even myself, even my wife, right? My wife couldn't tell you anything other than like thebarndoco.com, right? Like she's like that. We don't talk details. We don't dig into the nitty gritties of business, but she's heard enough about onboarding. She remembers when I created onboarding. Like she could tell people, yeah, call my husband and get you onboarded, right? Like she knows that's the So when I was laying in bed and said this out loud to her, she was like, are you sure? And I was like, no, I'm not yet, but I think this is what needs to happen. And so we got a big announcement, right? And it's exciting for me. It will be exciting for you guys. I know you guys had to do a ton of heavy lifting to make this possible. But we got a big announcement. As of October 1st, 2025, onboarding is going to look a little bit different to a client. And it's just us putting our money where our mouth is and standing behind that we know that we have the best system to make sure that you're getting what you want, that it matches what you're paying for, and that the experience will be great. And so we're making an adjustment. Lance, you want to share?
Yeah. So right now, if in the current situation you onboard with us, there's a cost to onboard, depending on if you want, SFH, stock barndominium, or a custom. And then you pay that money in. A custom is $7,500. A stock and SFH is $500. I mean, $75,000.
Yep.
So, and then, that kind of gets you in the process, and we go through everything, and because there's man hours involved. So, in the new concept, we want to do a lot of that beforehand, and we're just moving that way down the road. You don't have to pay that to get started. We've had, a comment or two before, to say it's kind of a pay to play. We don't want that stereotype on it. We know that we can get you through the process. We can get you a real estimated, kind of close price before we actually, turn a contract, and actually sign a contract. So we're moving that down the line, and we want people to come in and experience the process that we have at zero cost.
Onboarding is free.
Onboarding is free.
Onboarding is $0.
Onboarding is $0 now.
So anybody
that had the mindset before is, why do we need to pay to get all this work done? Okay, great. We'll do the work anyway. Prove us wrong. We'll do the work anyway. Yeah. Come on in.
So I want to interject something real quick, right? And then I want some feedback from you, because there's a bunch of things that we have to like. I don't think people take me seriously when I talk about like the pressure of me wanting to see something happen. Like their running joke is if they see me in the office and I'm not speaking directly to them, that they think I'm conspiring with the others to get something, and then we're all going to drop something on their plate. I want to talk about onboarding for one thing. So I do not feel like that charging for it was wrong. I don't feel like that anybody was losing value. Because we gave you that money back. Right. So, if you onboarded with us, if you were doing SFH, if you were doing a stock Barndo for $5,000, if you were doing a custom at $7,500, when you went to sign, you got
a credit on your
that credit towards the cost of that home. The problem is, if you didn't make it to contract, you're kind of out. I always feel like, hey, you paid for an education. It cost you 1% of your build cost to figure out that this is not a good move for you and your family. And you get to keep everything that we did for you.
That's
You
right.
get to keep that set of preliminary plans. You get to keep all that information and all that quote information. So you could go talk to other builders. We actually encourage people to take that and go talk to other builders, right? Like I've always said, choose us, don't just use us.
Right.
And so I never feel like there was a bad value there. But here's what I do believe. I do believe that I'm so confident in where we are as a company today. We've always been in a situation where we're servicing so many people that we didn't quite have the staff. We were always behind the 8 ball. Last year, we sat down and we solved that problem. We hired more people than we've ever hired.
Thank you.
In company history. And we're at a point now to where we have such a large team in every area that we're under capacity. And it's a different way of looking at things. And so for now, I want to prove to you without any investment from you whatsoever that you can trust this process and distinguish very quickly if this is something that fits the needs of you and your family, or if it's something that maybe isn't the best decision. And I want you to be in control. I've said it from the beginning. I want clients and homeowners to be in control of the decision. We are not selling vehicles. This is not a used car lot. We're not trying to sell you on a process. And it looks as if that's the case. If you're a new client looking in and you look on there and you see people who onboarded, didn't quite understand that onboarding was literally created to blow the idea up if it doesn't make sense. And then they're like, we onboarded and never got to the end. Yeah, okay. But that's the point. But there was a paywall there. And so as I sat there and wrestled with it, I said, if I was a client and I paid that money and I didn't quite understand, right? And I'm trying to build this for my family and now I'm out a little bit of money, I might feel the same way. And it was hard for me because I'm literally convinced that it was the best value in construction. Take you from someone who knows nothing other than these look cool and I think we want one to you could go talk to other builders and qualify if they knew what they were talking about or not because you'd be so educated through the process. To where I said, but maybe one. I might feel that way. And so as I put myself in those shoes, I was like, if I can empathize from one person's perspective, then I'm changing the system. And so does that mean that there's no cost to onboarding? Absolutely not. It just means that it's built into the cost of building now, and you don't you're not giving us a prepayment and then getting a credit. It's come on in. We'll do all this for you. If it doesn't work out, you lose no investment, right? But if it does work out, then those things that you were paying for are now in it, right? So that didn't go away. It's just we're pushing it down the road so that so that no one ever leaves the ecosystem feeling like they lost money. I'm at a point now where I'm willing to give you the information. I want you to have it for free. I want you to know. But there are some stipulations to this because we can't onboard 1,500 people in October, right? Because then we'll break the machine. 1,500 people aren't qualified to build Barndos.
That's right.
I don't think that we're missing anyone. I just want the experience to be better. I want people to not feel like when they write that check to onboard or they pay that credit card link to onboard, the nerves of an investment you're unsure of. I want the power to be in your pocket and you're able to breathe and go through this 30 days of discovery before you're ever asked to invest a dime. And let us earn that business in a way that is stress-free for you. And if we can't earn it, we don't deserve it. And so,
I mean, we're at a place where it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. We're getting to pull back the curtain a little bit, and you can see everything that we're doing, how it all works before you do that.
And I'll be honest with you, we lost money on onboards anyway. So like it's not like it was some amazing thing, but it was an investment for people. It was a paywall for people. It's just like me. And this was the one thing I was chewing on this and I clicked on a Wall Street Journal article on Twitter and it took me to a paywall to read the rest of the article. 99 cents. And I was like, whatever. And I Googled it and found the same story on Yahoo or something and read it, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not paying a paywall. And I feel like some people could feel that way coming in because we know everything, right? I'm highly confident in the process. As an outside consumer, you might not. And so what I would rather you do is lean on my expertise and come through the process. So if you've paid an onboarding, you didn't get ripped off.
Yeah.
It's just literally that money is now added into the contract at a later date with one caveat. If you're doing custom, that you're still going to have to pay for design. However, we're going to do a lot of work before then. So when you onboard as a custom design, you're going to get to come into a showroom. You're going to get to have a site visit. We're going to put a lot of things together, get some good notes. And then at that point in time, if it still feels feasible, still feels like something you want to pursue, right? And you haven't decided to either build a stock plan or, hey, this just isn't right for my family. You want to continue on and design that custom Barndo and do that for your family. We'll say, okay, here's the cost to go and work with our design team and build these plans. We invoice it, you pay it. And then same thing. If you don't end up building with us, those plans are yours to keep. There's no additional investment there whatsoever. And I'm willing to take the gamble. I'm willing to take the gamble because I know with absolute certainty that people that come in, that go through the process, that sign on the dotted line to build, have the best experience that they could have had. And if they had something that went awry, it would have went awry with any builder on planet Earth. Regardless of whose sign was in the yard, you would have had an issue with this one particular thing because it's just part of the process, right? So that's massive news. It's massive news.
Huge.
Like it's even everybody was like, "Are you sure, TJ? Like you've talked about onboarding for 4 years, and I've been lambasted on the internet. Every other builder, that's like their thing. They want to shoot bullets at me, like, oh, we don't charge you to talk to you, and I'm like, we don't either. We charge to give you a service to prepare you to go talk to other builders.
Well, and that's a misnomer too, because every builder at some point is wanting a deposit.
Yeah,
they'll talk to you. They'll talk to you for a couple of times, but they're not going to spend what we're spending in time to go through every nick and cranny and as many details as we possibly can, for free, because they're building houses. They don't have time for that.
You're going to pay their architect $20,000.
Yeah.
They don't get volume deals like we do.
Right. So, I mean, for us in the past, it was a little skin in the game for the customer. Hey, we're going to do a lot of work here. We're wanting to do it for you. Now it's like, we got the process figured out. We cleaned it up as much as we can, and we're willing to do more of it up front than we ever had before.
If the brass tacks is this, I'm absolutely, unequivocally, supremely convinced that we have the best pre-construction process on planet Earth, and I'm willing to lose money on it to prove it to you. Come, get in, ride the wagon, let us take you there. I will put everything on it. There's nothing. I can't sit by and let people take a turn in the road because of a small paywall that they didn't quite understand, or because they seen some feedback that maybe we onboarded but we didn't get there. Like, if you look at any negative feedback we have, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 clients, it is 100% people who onboarded with us that didn't make it to the final destination, and I get it.
And some of them wouldn't have made it to the final destination with any builder.
Correct. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You had an experience. You wanted it.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. I would feel the same way.
Yep.
So, no, I'm not smearing that, right? Hey, you didn't have the experience you expected. Let her rip. But I want people to know that as an owner in the company, I'm willing to bet everything on it. That if you will just take the step in, there's nowhere else on this earth where you could go in and have a custom home design on your property that meets the requirements, that can stand the test of time and do everything and have a better experience. I don't believe it. And so, again, I'm taking it away. Onboarding is free, right? And Lance is smiling. He was not at first, right? Because it's just a big change.
Yeah.
It's a big change. I've literally beat it into everybody's head, the importance of onboarding. Onboarding is not diminished. I just am removing the paywall because I want you to experience it. I don't want there to be anyone out there standing on the outside uncertain and end up going somewhere where they have a long-term disadvantage because they were afraid to invest a little bit of money, 1% up front to get educated, right? I want you to have the best experience possible, so I'm eliminating that. So 100%, don't leave me hanging on an island here. If you've been sitting on the sideline, you've been kicking the can, the paywall's been prohibitive to you because you're just uncertain, unsure, you don't know, I am empathetic to you. Call your sales agent and tell them you're ready to onboard, right? There's two things going to happen. They're going to send you a link. It's going to tell you what onboarding looks like, tell you what to expect. You're going to get to come into the showroom. You're going to get a site visit. We're going to get all the grading numbers put together. We're going to figure out a whole lot of things. And then once we get it all packed up neatly for you and you're ready to sign, you're going to be given an opportunity to put your $5,000 down,
Yep.
or defer it and add it to the contract price and send it off to finance. Your preference, right? But the goal is for you to sign and say, I'm ready, sign this, get it over to the bank, let's get this thing rolling. And we're going to ask you to pay $5,000 because one of the things that we like to do, and one of the things that onboarding afforded us the opportunity to do, is when we send it to finance, we also turn that thing active on Nick's side, and Jennifer starts doing due diligence, getting permits in place. We start, pulling some of those things and getting the engineering done, and we're not waiting on a funding from the bank. So your $5,000 front loads some of those costs so that we don't get a closing and get funds, and then we trigger another 30-day sequence before we can start construction. You have the opportunity to still pay that money, but at that point, everything's been solved. We've done all of the work. We've 100% earned your business, and you'll see that. The second thing is the moment you click it, $0 of cost, zero obligation to build. This is just onboarding so that I can make sure this is right for me and my family. It's going to tell you, hey, once we get you a proposal that you've agreed to and a contract to sign, we're going to ask you to pay $5,000, right? You pay the $5,000, great. If you don't, we'll add it to the thing. We're not gonna slow you down. But before we get there, we want to see a pre-qual from a lender, because a lot of times what we found is people have had conversations with lenders, and then their lender takes 90 to 100 days because they're wanting to set up these. We have worked so long and so hard. We have so many lenders. We're approved with over 100. And we have some very great lenders who make this a breeze. And so literally you can onboard and have a pre-qualification back in 24 hours from that moment.
That's right.
And then as soon as we get that, we're changing the experience as well and speeding things up. The process is going to be faster. There's a lot of things happening from the time you onboard to the time you walk into a showroom and sit down with one of our showroom managers and look and touch and feel some of the things that we're putting in the home is going to be within a week. So you could onboard today, and by next week, you will be sitting in a showroom talking to someone, looking at those plans and figuring this thing out together. And then within 2 weeks of that, we're going to be on your property, meeting with you, looking at where you want to put the home, referencing the perk test and making sure that we have the home put in a place to where it flows to the perk test, which is one of those things that, you want included in there about site visits, is making sure we have some of that upfront due diligence done with perk testing, which about 85-90% of people already have. But there is 10-15% of people that maybe need to get that done.
Or never built before. They don't know.
And we help them.
Yeah.
But tell the importance of, hey, you're an onboarded client. You've determined a plan you want to build. Let's just assume they're doing a stock build or an SFH, or they're a custom client and they just got preliminaries and we're going out there to do the grading estimates, right? Talk about the importance of a perk test and why it is kind of like the guiding force of where that house can and cannot be located.
Yeah. So, first of all, there's due diligence that needs to be done to make sure that the county is not going to make you be on sewer, because sometimes there will be areas where a lot of people in the area have septic, and whatever county you're in or city municipality will decide that they're putting sewer in. And we have ran into this to where they won't give you an option anymore. So knowing whether you're septic or sewer is important, first of all. But the perk test is important because it's going to dictate where the septic can be on the land. we have to put the house where the septic can be. So that perk test, that soil test and everything that goes into getting a septic permit is going to dictate where we build. So when we go out to do a site visit, it's important to have the property lines marked so we know your setbacks. If you have 1,000 acres, obviously, we're nowhere close to your property lines. But we do have some people that have, either smaller parcels or narrower parcels. So it's important to know what your setbacks are.
Or family parcels they haven't separated out yet. I mean,
I was going to get to that
Sorry.
part. But you're fine.
We've been talking about it for 3 days.
All these things are so important because, we're sending a guy out there to meet you and look at it and try to get a grader to give an estimate on, building a construction drive and building a house pad. But we have to make sure that what you're designing actually fits on your lot. And we have to make sure where we're putting the house is within setbacks. And we have to make sure that the perk test allows for the house and septic to be there. So that's the first part of it. Second is septic is also going to dictate how many bedrooms you can have. I mean, we have ran into this so many times where someone designs a 4-bedroom house and they have an old septic plan that's approved for 2 bedrooms, and on top of that, when it comes to the perk test, there are some pieces of property that have to have engineered septic systems.
Yep.
Some of them are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and that will put people way out of budget. So all of this is so important. For us to be able to accurately know where we can put your house and for you to know what your actual cost to build is. So those are the 2 things. Up-to-date surveys. Another thing that we run into a lot is people subdividing land. So when you subdivide a piece of property, it changes the rules. We have to do what's called a LID permit. They want, stormwater, drainage plans when it comes to that property. There's a lot of people that are subdividing to where they have a survey that might show 30 acres, but you're actually building on 5 acres and it changes everything. Yep. And if you wait until you're in finance for these things to happen, it just throws a wrench in everything. So subdividing land is huge. The due diligence has to be done on the front end. Perk testing, knowing where your septic can go, knowing whether you're an engineered septic or not, and knowing how many bedrooms you're approved for. Now, don't get me wrong, there's ways you can turn a bedroom into an office and take the closet out, but that's stuff that we need to know when we're designing the house. And knowing if there's an easement on that property. I mean, some properties have easements, and we do not want to build a house in an easement. So this is kind of one of those where we do as much due diligence as we possibly can, but we don't own the land. So this is where there is a true partnership between us and the client to just make sure that we dot every I and cross every T. Because like what you were talking about earlier, where we do not want to run into these issues once we're building your house. And I did want to mention this earlier. We run into a lot of people that are like, well, I got this guy down the street to give me a grading quote and he's cheaper. He doesn't have any skin in the game. He's not putting a structure that he's that he's standing by for 8 years on that pad. He's going to go out there, spread some dirt around, get paid, and you'll never talk to him again. When we do the construction drive, we know if we get a rainy couple weeks, that thing could blow out. We know we got to get big trucks down there. We have to get concrete trucks. We have to get cranes. We have to deliver trusses. We tried our best to anticipate all of these things when we're giving grading quotes, because I know for me, I would rather an extra $5,000 be in my loan than my vacation money. And that's what we try to avoid. So we try to do our due diligence to make sure that we're anticipating what could go wrong. Because we were talking about that 1% where things go haywire, but there's a much larger percent where smaller things go wrong that we have to adjust and pivot. And we do our best in a very, very short amount of time to anticipate those things, because we don't want to have those conversations. I don't want to call you and say, dude, I'm sorry, I need $5,000 from you. But I think from the permitting standpoint and the grading quote standpoint, all of those things are so important for us to be accurate and for us to be on the same page and for us not to hit that bottleneck in permitting where it takes us 2 extra months. Like, we want to build your house fast, you know. We don't want to drag our feet, and we don't want to hit these lulls in the process, because we don't enjoy it any more than the client does when things like that happen.
Well, there's two things that I talk about all the time: speed and accuracy. Accuracy wins, right? Like, the more accurate you can be in the process, overall, the faster it becomes, right? So yes, we want you to be able to come in and onboard with us on October the 1st, pick a stock plan, have all of this pre-work done, and be in contract by November 1st. That is our desired target. However, accuracy trumps speed. So your accuracy in delivering the necessary documents to us, your accuracy in getting a real pre-qualification, pre-approval letter to dictate what your actual budget is, right? We've had numerous people that either thought they had a $500,000 budget and only had a $375,000, but also people who thought they had a $500,000 budget that ended up with a $750,000 budget. And so having real diehard measurements on the front end, and you as the partner supplying that with speed and accuracy, helps drive this. The other thing is that there's something that pops up. We've talked about this. There's a lot of 1%ers, right? So 1% of builds have, Longhorn Japanese beetles. 1% have, organics buried in their soil. 1% have, a mile-long driveway. 1% have an LID permit, or maybe 10%. But that
10.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is all of that adds up, and you could easily be in any of these groups. And so if it comes down to that, we're going to determine that and detect that very early in the process. And so your 30 days may turn to 60 days for the sake of accuracy, because our number one objective is to get you a fixed price and outline in a clean scope of work and a clean set of plans what's included, what's not included, what it's looking like. When we do the site visit, we may determine we need stem walls. We may determine it's better to build it up with dirt and
retaining wall.
Do a retaining wall. We might just say we're going to do a crawl space. There's a million different things that has to be determined in this. And so, yes, we know you want to get in your new home as fast as possible, and we want you to. But if we have to forsake speed for accuracy, we will choose accuracy every single time. And you will do it too as the homeowner, right? You will put your feet down if you don't feel like something's accurate enough, and slow down to get it there. Our objective is to do it. And the fact that we do it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people simultaneously, there's no chance that you're designing customs built in this way in any more efficient system anywhere on earth.
No, and just real quick, I'll say too, as the director of construction, I mean, I feel an obligation and a responsibility to do things right. And sometimes, in order to do things right, or to really do due diligence, sometimes it takes time. And I just that is something that I'm not willing to compromise on, because it's always in the client's best interest.
Yep. And here's the thing: we have 300 clients a year on average, right? So you think about this. When you think about a builder that builds one or two of these a year, that's 300 years of work. And we're doing it in 12 months. If you think about builders that maybe build 10 a year, that's 30 years of work. And we're doing it in 12 months. I promise you, we've developed a system to make it possible and for people to end up at something that checks all the boxes at the end and have a better experience. We've seen build times from when we started this thing, right? And we didn't know. Like, we used to build one or two, and then we had 70 clients. I just dropped a clip online talking about this. We had 70 people on board with us within the first 90 days of offering onboards. And trying to build 70 when it was just me and Ross and a few guys in a pickup truck was very, very difficult. And so we've seen build times go from 14 to 18 months to we've had some houses delivered inside of 100 days. We've had some majority of our houses delivered inside of 200 days.
Yeah.
And on the onboarding side, we've seen that. I just told you our goal is 30 days if you're doing a stock or an SFH. That in and of itself, we had people in the beginning that onboarded because like we didn't have a roadmap. We were trying to figure it out, and we're letting you work with a designer, and then we're trying to piece it together and do what other builders do, right? And we've had people that it took them a year to go from onboard to contract because of changes and all these things. The more that we build and the more that we've done it, and all the strange and unusual things that we've encountered, we've put up a lot of guardrails to make it more efficient. And I promise you, like if you come in and it took 6 months to get it right on the front end and 6 months to build it, you still did it inside of a year, and that's faster than we used to could even build a house.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot to and I want to put it in perspective. We're not a small guy down the street that builds 10. We're building hundreds, dealing with thousands of people.
Multiple states.
In multiple states, multiple offices, and we've got it dialed in enough that we can successfully say that we're turning out hundreds of turnkey barndominiums a year with 90% raving fans. And that doesn't happen by chance. It's a lot of tireless work. You gentlemen are a big piece of that. And when I come to you with something crazy like, hey, we're going to wave on board, and Nick goes, oh my gosh, we're going to have 5,000 people come in October. And I'm like, I don't think so. But you move things around and orchestrate in a way with your team to make this feasible, because not only are we removing the fee to onboard, I'm moving the time up to get them to contract by less than half. So there's a lot of things. I'm constantly putting pressure on the system. I'm constantly putting pressure on it because I look at every single experience
Yeah.
and I want it to be the best. And you guys do too.
What is that game where they play at like family fairs where like two people have their legs tied together and they're like hopping?
Oh, a three-legged race.
That is
Three-legged race.
literally how important it is for the client to partner with us in order for things to go faster, more efficient, and more accurate when it comes to making decisions, design selections, when it comes to the site stuff that we need for permitting. All of those builds, I will tell you, all those builds that we've done between 90 and 200 days, that has always been the common denominator.
Well, the funny thing is, in a race like that, if you're not like talking, it's so funny to watch them when the people are not on the same page, because one person's falling over, the other one's dragging them along, or if one's like really short, one's really tall, it's really hard. But man, when they're on the same page, they can run just as fast. I mean, it's and that's what we need. I mean, even the pre-approval, what you talked about, we have some beautiful plans online. The stuff that's about to drop is going to be so pretty. You can dream with us, man. I mean, we do some beautiful stuff. We got the videos and the drone shots. I mean, you can dream with us. And I feel like in the past, a lot of people would come and go through onboarding and go through all that, and then it's like, okay, we need to go see what we can buy.
Yeah.
And then and then they get the reality shock because the economy's changed. Economy is always changing, and they would come in with a 10-carat diamond, dream, and they could afford a 5-carat diamond. And it's so important to know.
If you can afford a 5-carat diamond, please onboard with us. we definitely want you.
Or if you could just walk in and you don't care what kind of diamond, please. But the majority of people that are first-time home builders, they don't know, should I go and try to get a pre-approval? Most realtors won't even take you to look at a home until you've got a pre-approval, because there's so much time investment in it. So we have a wonderful list of lenders that's ready for this. We just saw some interest rates drop. I mean, they're going to keep dropping by the end of the year. There's no better time to build, and there's no better system, and we can do it for you. But I think the few guardrails that we do have up and what we've learned in the past is allowed us to do what we're about to do.
Yep.
And that's what's important.
100%.
If we'd have done this 3 years ago,
Pandemonium.
Now it's just chaos.
It was pandemonium 3 years ago, regardless.
But now it's controlled chaos.
Well, again,
y'all would be visiting my tombstone like
that statue that turned out quite right. again, it comes from a place of passion. We really do care. We watch everything. We pay attention to feedback. We work tirelessly behind the scene to improve the process, even when we feel like it's the best. It can always become better. And so we want to raise the bar. We want to make it more accessible to more people. We want people to claim the American dream. That's it in a nutshell. There's a lot of people that want their American dream. We want to give it to them. And so we're going to roll the dice on this, and don't prove me wrong, right? Don't prove me wrong. Don't stand on the sidelines. I have took down the barricade. You can get on the field. Let's play some ball. All right? I appreciate you guys jumping on here and helping me roll this out, because this is a big announcement. And I'm pumped to see it all work. So appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, TJ.